Welcome to Inside the Creative Mind. I am Brian Jones. Now, I've interviewed a lot of artists on this show, but Brian Viglione and Veronica Swift of Dame have already accomplished something no guest has before. They got me my first explicit rating on this podcast. Apparently, all it took was one song title, and suddenly Apple Podcasts thinks I need parental supervision. Let's meet Dame.
Welcome to Inside the Creative Mind with Brian Jones. Get ready to dive into the stories, sparks, and secrets that fuel creativity around the world. From musicians to painters, actors to writers, Brian takes you behind the scenes of the art you love. Let's go inside the creative mind.
Okay, guys, so today I'm joined with Brian Viglione and Veronica Swift from Dame. Now, when I saw that one of their new songs was called Mess, I figured if we were really going to bond, I needed to meet them halfway. So congratulations, Brian and Veronica. You've officially helped me earn my first explicit rating on this podcast. I feel like we're already getting closer. Welcome to the show.
Congratulations. Where's my trumpet? I'll play a fanfare.
Oh, my gosh. And I was thinking about that. So let's just say one of the marketing people that came to you guys and said, we love this song, but there's certain radio stations that can't play it because of the name and the explicit rating. If you guys had to rename this and you had to do a clean version, what would some of the ideas that would just pop into your head be?
Flowery mess.
You're just a flowery mess.
A fun mess.
I mean,
festive mess.
A festive mess would
just
probably.
A
festive mess is good. I just thought
any suggestions would be in the comments would be
just
welcome.
A funky mess.
That's a great Instagram.
Mess.
A funky mess would be good.
Wait, this is a great marketing idea because we make different T-shirts with like different vibes. Like we have like funky mess and flowery mess for the flower power people. We have all the different styles, and the T-shirts are in like the coloring and font of that style.
Festive mess for the holidays,
for the holidays.
It's just a festive mess. You could do that for the Christmas.
Yeah,
a whole thing. So.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Call in now with your idea and win a free pair of tickets to see Dame live.
Boom! I love it. We're off to a good start.
Right.
So, full transparency, and this was a great day in my life. I first found out about Dame when I was doom scrolling through Instagram, stalking new people I want to have on the show. And here's this picture of Veronica standing next to Steve Perry. Now, I guess I'll say Steve Perry from Journey. Not that I need to say that, because people just know who he is. And I clicked on it. I was like, oh, I love Steve Perry. Let's see who this young lady is that's standing next to him. And then I heard Veronica sing, and I was like, okay, I see why Steve Perry went to the show. And I'm also a fan of Journey. I love Steve Perry, but also for a different reason. I love Jonathan Cain, who's the keyboard player for Journey, and he also formerly was with the Babies, and I'm a huge fan of them as well. So before we get into all of the stuff that we're going to discuss, why don't you share for us and the people at home, what was that moment like when you got to meet, see, be around, stand next to Steve Perry?
Well, I mean, because I've met a lot of like living legends, not a lot, but some living legends in many different genres, and it's always an incredible, thing when they come, especially when they come to see you play. But this one was different. This one, when it's more than just like, I love your music. It's like I model my everything in my sound and my career, how your instrument is your body. So that is a deeply personal connection when a singer that you model your singing after comes to see you sing. And then not only that, but so he actually came to the first night, and I was, I gave it all I got. I gave it the like real, all right, we're going to go to 10,000. We're going to turn this up to 11. And that was, he was just like, he came backstage and talked to us for like 30 minutes. And it was just like, I couldn't believe it. I tried to play it cool, but of course I had to tell him. And Brian was so wonderful at helping, like, the conversation so that I wouldn't like get caught and stutter and caught in the And then I, of course, on the ride home, he and I were talking about tone production and vowel placement and all the nerdy things that singers love to talk about. It's like when people who are you're an engineer, right?
Yeah.
You're an engineer. Like when people get together in the same field, it's like, it's whatever field it is, it's always a nerd fest, right? And so
Big time.
then the drive home, I just broke down crying, tears, like
Wow.
Brian hadn't even heard me cry like that, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, broke down in tears is an understatement. It was like we were actually, how there's very frequently events at the Hollywood Bowl with lots of foot traffic and people going to and from the parking lot and stuff. We were stopped at a red light, and Veronica was like curled into a ball in the front seat, going like,
I sounded like a
and
dying
there was a
animal.
woman on the sidewalk, like looking into the car, sort of going like,
"Is she okay?"
Yeah, that kind of thing.
And so I, of course, because I was crying and screaming, so it's such a long story. I lost, not didn't lose my voice because I had a gig the next day. It was a 2-nighter. So my voice was a little on the more tired side because of all the crying. And then I get a call from my friend who's the one that facilitated the meeting and said, "Hey, is it cool if Steve can sit at the same table he sat at last night?" And I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" He came back a second night. And I was like, "Oh God, I'm going to have to sing differently because I don't have I can't place my notes the same way because I was just crying all night." So I actually okay, now I'm going to do a more I'm going to be economic with my singing and my placement. And he liked it better because it was more he said, "It's on the back end. You're singing from the back end." So it was just an unreal. And then later that week, I got to meet Alice Cooper and Geezer and Bill Ward. It was Brian got to meet his hero the following week, and Bill Ward.
Bill Ward was
Black Sabbath.
Yep.
I think it was called Monster Palooza that they had right here at the Pasadena Civic Center. But just before to get to that too, I just
were you crying in the car after, Brian?
I was balled up on this. I actually was actually. I actually completely. It was really funny. It was a mirror incident. But I want to get ahead of that. I just more about the Steve Perry thing because it was again just to watch this happen, to know how much Steve means to Veronica, and to see how down to earth and humble and just conversational, like a regular guy. And he sort of dove right into kind of sort of just kicking the vocal jargon and this technique you did, oh, that was so beautiful and blah. And he was just almost like talking with a vocal coach, but in a friendly kind of, not a critical kind of way. And he was just so gentle with everybody. And I was kind of asking him really just basic questions. I was like, what was it like? How did you get into this whole thing? And he told the story about his, watching his father sing in looking at his knee socks and his shorts when he was 5 years old at the, at the nightclub and, where it was and all that kind of stuff. And he was just absolutely lovely.
Such a deep guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
was he very genuine? I mean, did you feel like he was just such a genuine guy?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
And then, it was a jazz. This place was a jazz club he came to, and there's people know who he is, but he sits in a place where he's not obstruct. He's not "Oh my God, look who's Steve Perry." He's very respectful of the performers, and if people do come up to him, he's totally gracious, and it's just he's everything you'd hope he'd be, man.
What made it even cooler too was the fact that he was already friends with two of the guys in Veronica's trio that night.
He already knew these guys.
Yeah, he would go to see the bass player Gordon Bash has a big band that he plays with, and Steve would go out and see them, and he had seen Kerry Frank, the keyboardist, play, and that's how he sort of made his way into the show.
It's a small world out here in LA,
Yeah,
it really is. It's like any other town. It's in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's a smaller world here in Springfield, Illinois. Trust me. That is an incredible story. I want to, because I'm going to try to keep this 30, 40 minutes with you guys, because I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You got other things to do today. But for me, when I discovered you, it did not take long, after the Steve Perry, before all of a sudden Steve Perry was lower on my totem pole of interest, then all of a sudden Dame started coming up, and I was like, I can't put this into words without sounding like it. I was joking with Veronica yesterday about a giddy schoolgirl fan. You guys are exactly what I always aspired to be. And what I mean by that is your sound. I've got the pleasure of working with some incredibly powerful vocalists over the years, but there was something unique about your sound. It wasn't this, oh, Veronica's a great singer. that's well established. But the sound, the production, the style that you emulate. So for me, it was immediate connection. And we'll talk about your song list here shortly. But for someone, not me, but for someone who's discovered you guys, or you want to explain who you are, because we're growing on a fan base, and I want to get this message out. For someone discovering Dame for the first time, how would you guys describe the band? And it doesn't matter to me who you emulate or who you model after in some fashion. Just give us a description from both of you, if you could. What's Dame like?
Dame, I think, is the sort of amalgamation of all of these different sort of theatrical influences, mostly from, I would say, maybe the 19th or 20th century onward, including glam rock, jazz, cabaret, classic
Opera,
rock and roll, glam, metal, punk, all of these different sort of influences that have basically become part of the fabric of who we are as musicians. Both Veronica and I have very diverse taste in music. We draw from a lot of different places in the creative process. And Veronica really, as I have got to know her, first and foremost, even beyond being a phenomenal vocalist, really considers herself a storyteller. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the band is kind of a vehicle to tell the story of these different sort of archetypical women through history, like the women of the French Revolution and Josephine Baker,
Joan of Arc,
and things like this, which again, sometimes having iconography like that, it allows us as people to kind of see ourselves in that. And part of this has been Veronica's personal journey about really being able to fully become herself as a musician within her life and within the music industry. Veronica had a long jazz career and then wanted to transition to having her own original rock band, and Dame has become the vehicle for that.
Veronica, what's your take?
Yeah, they couldn't have said
what
better.
He said?
Yeah.
And what Brian said.
Yes, and for for people who what I hoped would happen is that obviously we are of our time. I'm born in 94. Brian, if I may say, he's born in 79. So we are kind of both of our times. We're a product of our generation. We're both cuspers in terms of generation cusps. But we do also kind of feel, because of our experience, and for those who don't know, my parents are both very world-renowned, well-known jazz musicians. I grew up, you know how you grew up speaking a language. Some people grew up in like a, Muslim family. Some people grew up speaking Spanish in their family.
Sure.
It's like my family culture was jazz and bebop and straight ahead, which is a very niche, especially bebop. It's a very niche world.
Sure.
So that was my language and culture, touring on the road with my parents. So for me, I kind of feel, because my dad was born in 1936, I have an older dad, I have an older mom as well. I do feel this kind of rub at odds with my time. And I know that a lot of people feel this way. And while, yes, we are products of our time, we also like to imbue this kind of time travel element with our music, with our visuals. That's why I chose. See, I was in 2023 knighted in France officially as the Chevalier in l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres. And when that happened, the whole concept kind of came together, because I was searching for a way. I was in this box as jazz singer, right, for so long, and I filled the role very well as the language I spoke, as the culture I come from. But my music was beyond that. It was like Queen, it was Led Zeppelin, it was Aerosmith, it was Journey, it was Dresden Dolls, which is Brian's band, and that's how I came to love Brian. And I wanted to have a place where all this could just be its own world and universe, and create a universe for people to kind of either time travel into, or you can enjoy us as a rock band, or you can enjoy us as a theatrical, wonderful world to step into.
You did a perfect segue for me there, because this question for Brian, the story of a Dame kind of begins with you discovering Veronica's interpretation of the Dresden Doll song Sing, which I had to go back and listen to both versions. That was like 16, 17 years ago. I'm just guessing when that...
20.
Okay, I was off, but I was close. I was in the same score. When you heard Veronica's interpretation of it, what was it about that inspired you to contact her?
Oh my goodness. Well, first and foremost, like 9 different things. The first and foremost was, hearing how beautifully she had interpreted that song and the feeling of that song, the message within, the sort of the kind of the heartache in it, but yet this sort of like undying kind of optimism, and being able to like through all of these difficult things that people had been going through, and particularly at that time during COVID, with the world having just shut down and politically things always kind of aflame somewhere, you know, being able to draw on strength collectively. And I thought Veronica captured that so beautifully in her arrangement, using like the choir and again, just sort of like the explosive section towards the end with like, you know, the guitar solo kind of roiling, and the fact that the track was kind of culminating this already exquisite album with a beautiful kind of socio-political kind of like angle to it without being kind of preachy. And I just thought it was just a masterful execution and musical expression of that song. And I mean, I had always been so flattered, you know, seeing fans do covers of Dresden songs very frequently, kind of like on ukulele on YouTube, and you know, just kind of fun things. But to hear somebody really do a serious interpretation and sort of reharm of this song, and just again really put forth the spirit so beautifully, that just absolutely blew my mind, on top of how taken I was with the rest of the album too. And so that sparked my absolute internet stalking and looking up every single Veronica Swift video and every sort of morsel of watching Veronica perform that I could. And I just wrote her a very simple, you know, message on Instagram saying, "Hi, it's Brian from Dresden Dolls. I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing such a beautiful version of Sing. I wish you all the best in your career. And if you ever come through LA, I would love to meet you and say hi. Good luck." And she wrote back and was like, "Thanks, man. Sounds awesome, man. Cool.
Let's try to play cool.
Try to play cool.
Stop stalking me, bro." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
and then she posted an Instagram story going like, "Dresden Dolls is my favorite band." Ah! Like a freeze frame thing. And I thought that was really hilarious. But that kicked off then a sort of a very sort of light correspondence between us.
Yeah.
For the next 7 months or so. We met in September of 21. And by that November, Veronica had invited me to come in and sit in on Sing live at her concert.
Wow.
And that was our first sort of live music experience together. And it was absolutely electric from the first note.
So you guys kind of worked together in Veronica's solo band before officially forming Dame. So when did you realize that this needed to be a separate band with its own identity?
Yeah. First off, I couldn't believe I got to meet, just like with meeting Steve Perry, it's like I'm meeting one of my heroes. But
I feel that today.
You know, you can't plan that kind of stuff, you know? You can play it in your head a million times, but what I did not expect was Brian to be, you know, such an immense collaborating force in my life. So when I had him, of course, this started with him playing Sing on our show. And then we had a show, a tour, I guess, where my drummer backed out last minute. And I was like, "Brian, you know all the songs. Like, you listen to my records. Can you," because I know he played jazz drums too, because at that time it was jazz trio. I was like, "Can you come and join us in the band and play this, fill in for the drummer?" And then he ended up being the drummer. And then we started a transgenre project, which was for me how I always wanted to get to putting the original rock music out. But in the world I come from in jazz, it's very like, you know, specific with kind of how it should sound. It's straight ahead. It's jazz trio, no electric guitars, nothing, you know, you could. So I wanted to somehow transition in a way that I could bring my audience along with me. So I came up with this transgenre project for like 2022 to 2025. We toured this project with, it's got horns, the guitars. We do everything from jazz arrangements of rock tunes to rock arrangements of jazz tunes and funk arrangements of opera arias. It's this very crazy kaleidoscope of sound. For some people, it's like, how do we sell this and market this? It's not about that. It's about, look at what can be done to make you see music a different way. It was really an experiment, and also to bring my audience along. So it showed me who's like kind of with us on this journey. And then once I was able to, we built our home studio, because Brian and I moved in together, and we built our home studio, got everything in place to record the Dame stuff on our own, because Brian is a fantastic producer. So I said, we can just do this from home. Yeah. And so we started producing the songs, recording, getting the band ready, you know, while transgenre was starting to open the floodgates.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it was ready to be released, July of 2025 last year, we then had the clean break and said, here is this project. And then for all Jazz Plus fans can continue Veronica Swift. And then there's, of course, Dresden Dolls fans. So it's kind of this whole Venn diagram of listeners and audience. But now we got Dame fans. So that's...
And you sure do. And a lot of them. So you touched on something there, Veronica, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. You are creative collaborators, but you're also life partners, if that's a fair statement. How do you guys handle artistic disagreements without allowing them to become personal? And I'm going to give you an example why I think that's a challenge. My wife and I just built an expansion on our home, and for the last 3 weeks, we've had contractors in here. And so we've been discussing, as husbands and wives do, what we want to do with the room, and it's caused some disagreements. We've worked them out. In other words, she wins. But how do you guys do that musically? Because as musicians, I know that can be challenging.
Luckily, when it comes to the house, we have the same taste in all things as you.
It's beautiful.
Tiffany lamps and fringes and old things.
We almost said so you sort of deferred to me in terms of decor, and I deferred to you in terms of, well, it really is. It's very simple because rather than it being a clash of wills, of I want it this way, well, I want it that way.
Yeah,
the way I view my role entirely, which was informed by the great drummers that I grew up listening to and sort of trying to take in their bits of wisdom, Elvin Jones and Ginger Baker in particular. I have to actually shout out, I really give a lot of credit to Ginger Baker in the interviews that I used to watch of him as a kid. He would say, your fundamental job as a drummer is to support everyone around you and what's going on musically. You want to be the person that helps make everybody else sound good and give them something reliable to lean back against musically, right? So my entire mindset is not one of like getting my way. What I want to do, because I also, part of the selection process for me is choosing to work with people that I inherently trust and like and admire what their creative impulse is, or those impulses are, right? So that takes a huge chunk of that ability to want to like sort of fight or challenge decisions. Because when you already go like, I smell what you're stepping in, I love it, like let's help. Right, that's a huge part, right? You feel me? As opposed to going like, well, I don't know, like me and Joe kind of don't really see eye to eye. He kind of wants to go in more of a pop direction. I kind of want to do more of the metal thing, and we kind of clash. This is much more about from the ground up, will select people in a way, or sort of intuit that you could pick. Like I said, when I heard Veronica's album, I was like, this is somebody I would cherish to work with.
Sure.
And then from there, I go, how can I best facilitate the vision that they're hearing? How can I bring the things that I love and that we share in common to help sculpt what the ultimate vision, and a version of what you just described the other day just happened. We were working on a track. Veronica was imagining it a little bit more sort of Beatlesy. I was thinking she was going in a more kind of like Radiohead, Johnny Greenwood thing with the guitar. And she's like, no, it's like two. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Tell me more about what get me back on track so we can, as a production team, focus this thing. Because it's like, why argue with the architect? If there's a design in place, what you want to do is help facilitate that design so that's like the construction is like right in line with it and everything goes to make the thing as solid as possible.
Yes,
so
and once that base kind of like creative direction is kind of like, okay, with this one we're going with the blah, blah, blah plus the blah, blah, blah. It's like, once the language has been agreed upon, then I trust him in his decisions that I'm like, because what Brian is really great at as a producer is not just engineering and mixing and all that, but it's also and how to mic, and he really knows orchestration. Like his band, the Dresden Dolls, for those who don't know, it's him and a pianist, so it's just the two of them, and it's a similar kind of thing. She'd bring a song and it's constructed, but Brian sees things from an angle that maybe the person who wrote the thing doesn't see from, and can orchestrate things, and especially with our band where everything is heavily orchestrated. From even just the 5-piece, whether it's the stacked vocal 6-part harmony that I'm doing, or Brian trusts me with the vision, I trust him with how to facilitate the execution. And it requires that trust. If you don't have that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it took me a long time when I started working with other musicians in the studio to realize that letting them in, sharing their knowledge, I'm not a guitar player. Trust me. Or worked with some of the best guitar players and seeing where they wanted to take something and giving them that ability to explore that realm was always better than what I initially thought anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I had some ideas and I was really stringent. I wanted to stick to that path. But when you're open to their suggestions and you
Yes.
incorporate them, it just seems to turn out a better product for me. I've learned that over the years. But
Yes.
so I want to talk about the world of Dame because this, this is exciting. So the mythology of Dame kind of imagines a future where artificial intelligence has destroyed much of humanity's historical record and time travelers are sent back to recover
How
stories.
deep do you want to get into this?
Oh, hey, we'll go. I'll get a shovel out. But you're sent back in time to kind of uncover these extraordinary women. So where did this concept begin? I have never heard of anything like this.
Well,
And before you answer,
Mhm.
your videos about Joan of Arc or Josephine Baker that you put out, sometimes these things are like, I don't know, 20 minutes long. I watch the whole thing because it's like a college seminar that you go to, and I'm like taking notes about Josephine Baker for the first time. But you guys really incorporate this. But how did that all happen?
Yeah, I think when I was knighted, that was when that concept became
Okay.
so clear and strong because I was finding myself looking to all these amazing these women who changed the course of history and men too. Like it's not just Dame is not just about women. It's not just like a feminist band or anything like that. It's just amazing people. But because I identify with women too, I was learning about a lot of people that you may never have heard of in school or may never have learned about. Like these are the secondary characters, but people that actually really shook the system. And that kind of became that I experienced that a little bit myself in my world. I kind of did that in the jazz world a little bit where I was going along with the program, doing what was expected of me. And then I changed it up and shook the system a little. And everyone was like, wow, this isn't what we expected. Some people were like all about it. Some people were. So that's how the world that's where the instant idea came from. I was seeing myself in these great women. I'm saying I'm a great woman, but I'm seeing myself, the struggles that I was going through. It's like you can connect with these people who are hundreds and hundreds of years in the past. So the time travel element has always been, my dad and I love to discuss time travel and quantum, even Brian and I too. It's like we're obsessed with how time is not linear. It's cyclical and it bends and is relative. And that's a subject we write a lot of songs about too. And right now there's only about 5 songs out because we've been started to put out our music. So this is what I'm speaking about is not necessarily what's available to witness right now. It's all being built in real time that you're seeing us
we're going to
build
talk about that. Yeah,
Sure.
we're going to talk about that. Yeah, for sure.
And I just was looking for different ways to get to connect with people on this concept. Some people will not be rock and roll fans, but they'll be history buffs, and they're going to like what we do because I give these what I call Great Dame talks. Maybe I should do a podcast someday, but these Great Dame series, it's like where I dress as a woman of this character and just tell someone you may not have heard of, like Olympe de Gouges in the French Revolution. Did you know who that was? Probably not. And that's been
not.
actually, and then the jester one, it actually went viral. I dressed as a court jester and talked about Mathilde de Valois.
Oh, I saw it.
And how she prevented an assassination attempt from one of the kings. And it was just things that are people like, what the hell have I never heard of this? So that's that, and also singing covers and then stuff like the pictures of Steve Perry. These are the initial kind of, I say the opening of the portal in my nerdy way, where people discover who is this. And then they find the music videos, the live performances will all also reflect this narrative, this concept. And we have a lot of videos in the works that we're working on to open up that concept a bit more. Right now, we've just been putting out kind of our stronger songs and just trying to speak to the rock and roll fans who just love a good rock song.
Yeah.
But we look forward to creating more of this universe for you to step into.
please don't ever lose the rock side, because
Oh God, no!
man,
It's the core.
Every time I see something new, like fucking mess, there's my explicit rating again. I'm blown away. But I think what I want to ask, and this is more of a personal question that I just personally want to know, because I've worked and interviewed hundreds of musicians over the years, but I always like to ask the same question to everybody. So walk me through, if you can, the creation of a Dame song. And what I mean is, where does the process usually begin? How does it begin, and just where does it end up?
I think you should take this one.
Really?
Veronica's being very sweet, trying to give me the nudge to defer, but I'll give you just an anecdote on that. I basically, over the years of maybe say 22, 23, frequently would be out maybe at another band rehearsal or some kind of thing like that, and come back maybe 2 hours, 3 hours later, and I would sort of crack the door open, and Veronica would go, "Baby, you want to hear my new song? Check it out!" And she would have like a 30-track multi-part harmony, like fully programmed drums, bass, guitar, like demo prepared in Logic, which was always astounding to me. So Veronica is a master sort of demo prepper. And yeah, I would think most of the lyrics are usually all the way pretty much done. But I'll just say this too. And then in terms of like the development, that's when I'll learn the drum parts. The other guys will kind of come in. And depending on the state of it, I think there's been a few songs along the way where I think he helped, a bit here and there, like more or less. Or
it really just, it varies song to song.
Right. But I credit where credit is due. The majority of the sort of through composed songs that have been written really have all stemmed from Veronica at this point.
I spent, especially in the past, before I met Brian, a lot of time on the road by myself, kind of playing with this trio here and that trio there. And it just was it wasn't like a band experience like what you would expect. It's just I travel alone, I show up, I sing, and then I go back to the hotel. And I would just write my songs by myself. And it was... When you're writing in a solitary place like that, there's something to be said with collaborating and writing songs in real time with people, and that we have songs like that too. But there's also something to be said when you're just like, it's literally keeping me alive writing these songs, because I'm so bored and depressed that like these songs are the universe I get to create and step into. It's like why we watch movies, why we read books. So writing songs, they when I have nobody to write with or bounce ideas off of, I'm literally just going down my rabbit hole of my mind. And I come from the classical background, so I'm writing in a very orchestrated, I love chord changes. I love a chord progression that you wouldn't expect there. I'm looking for all the chord options possible, and then just go with what feels right.
Yeah. It's a different sort of writing process,
right?
In a way, I think, from maybe a lot of bands where, songs will originate out of like a jam, or a guitar player will come in with a couple of riffs, or maybe there's a few, keyboard key change, chord changes and things like that. Yeah. Veronica really will like conceptualize pretty much an entire song, and there's so much kind of connective tissue. It's kind of like almost like the song like Boston or something like that.
Oh yeah,
like you know what I'm saying? And that it's not really sort of like a Sabbathy jam where it's like some hard riffage and could go here, it could go there, and it'll throw in a guitar solo. It's like a really detailed map from the beginning to the end of the arrangement, and all that then work kind of comes in. That's where the collaborative aspect can sometimes be fun. We will explore ideas there. What will be fun is starting from a different place where we maybe take a riff and just see where that kind of goes. There's one song more or less really kind of started like that with You and Robo.
Yeah, right? and again, we are sorry that so many of these songs are not available to listen to right now, because we've only just
we'll be waiting.
Yeah.
We're waiting anxiously. It's funny, and I'm going to start talking about the music, but when I first, you only had 4 songs out when I first found you guys. And so I have to listen to a lot of music in my line of work. Some of it's really good, some of it's not. So I go, I never know what to expect. So I'm thinking, verse, chorus, break, guitar solo, verse, chorus. I'm expecting stuff. And so I think the very first song I just chose it randomly was Wrong Place, Wrong Time, which I love all of your music, but there's something about Wrong Place, Wrong Time that is always going to be my favorite. I like it even more than Mess, which is growing on me. And I'll let you know, I've had a lot of sleepless nights singing that damn chorus in the head of I can't stop. It's just churning in my brain and it's driving me insane, but that's a good thing. That's what you want. But so when I listened to it, Brian, you said it earlier, because I'm a big fan of Boston and Kansas and Yes, and some of those bands where you don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. And that's what you guys did. And I've been waiting patiently for a decade to find something like that. So I was immediately struck. Now, I do want to file an official complaint to the Dame Human Resources Department. And I'll tell you why. I love the dynamic flow. I can't say dynamic today. The dynamic flow of your songs. So you go from something really intimate into this huge, powerful rocking moment, but somehow it all feels like it belongs together. Mm-hmm. So as I was clicking through now 5 songs on Spotify, I come across a Dream Song, and here's where my complaint comes in. It's 1 minute and 37 seconds long, and it's absolutely breathtaking. And then it stopped. It's like a really good movie, and you're so excited to see the end and what's going to happen, and then it's just like goes to commercial and you never find out. So I love that song so much, but I want to know a couple things. What were you thinking with the 1 minute and 37 second version? And couldn't that be the Van Halen eruption beginning of another song? I mean, come on, you guys, you left me hanging with this. I need some validation.
Well, context is everything too. Like that was, so when I was getting ready to release Dame and like, all right, Brian, here we go. The thing we've been working towards for 4 years. And now people are going to really get the rock side of what we do. And Dream Song was, I call it the opening of the portal. Right? Mm. That was the first thing we put out because, and if you see the video, I kind of was doing an interpretive dance with a white sheet in a black void, where it's like there's a pin light that comes out at the end, and it was like the birthing. It's like a baby coming out of the womb, and so that's like our dog just barked. So it's like a baby coming out of the womb,
Perfect
right?
Timing.
It's like a black void. Yeah. And then there's this light that just grows and grows and envelops you. And then you're into the world of Dame. So obviously that is a song that would go with like the first thing on an album, opening, prologue, prelude, whatever you want to call it. But we chose that to be the first thing that comes out because it is so ethereal. And it's, like you said, it's got all the things you're saying is exactly how we would hope that song would make people feel like, oh God, what's going to come? But, you know, if you found it later in the first, obviously everybody's going to find a different first song to listen to. So once the record's out, it'll be all clear why we recorded that.
Yeah, that makes sense now. I feel better about it. I feel like you guys weren't just toying with me mentally. So I want to talk about all these, but your newest release, Fucking Mess, beyond the humor of the theatrical energy of the title, what kind of mess is the song actually exploring?
Well, obviously there's the first of all, the song came from just the chord progression at the top of the song, that little piano thing.
Love that part.
That came from this very well-known, iconic Broadway composer and writer named Jason Robert Brown. Who, when you're a theater kid in my age in the 2010s, growing up in high school, you sang Jason Robert Brown tunes all the time. So he's also, like I say, theater is a big part of our music. Mm-hmm. So when he brought the song to my friend and I, Robbie Neville, who were collaborating and co-writing a bunch of stuff, when I saw Jason Robert Brown brought a chord progression, I said, oh, let me at it. I would love to turn this into a song. And I said, that chord progression sounds like a fucking mess. And I said, well, there's this title. Robbie's like, there's the title. And he built like a Queenish kind of more pop. Actually, it was more along the lines of like a pop rock track, like you'd hear like in a Disney kind of musical. Mm-hmm. And then I made it a little more kind of like, took it back to like 70s hard rock, glam, little Gary Glitter and their little T-Rex, but with more punch and punk. But the concept, of course, I thought about people who maybe I felt with rock, maybe I waited too long. Oh God, should I have started earlier? And think about the people that have lived their lives going, man, what if I did differently? And looking at kind of how life has turned out, not the way you expect it, right? And maybe you're, this person, this character, I'm always very character driven. This character came into my mind of like a person who's still living at home and trying to just work odd jobs here and there to make it work, get their life back on track, but they live in the past. How many people have we been with where we kind of romanticize the old relationships, right? But it's really, it's never how we remembered it. It was really, there's a reason why those relationships didn't work out, right?
Right.
So that's the story in this video that you see. But Brian has a really good explanation too for like what it means on like the global scale, fucking mess, right?
Hey, before you answer, Brian, I just wanted to say, nice rack in that video. I mean,
he's talking about
on, dude.
Brian, just so everybody knows, not me.
yeah, I'm talking about Brian.
Well, I had gained a few extra pounds, which always helps with the
I'm
hair.
telling you, you pulled that off, dude. That was fantastic. And
we're not afraid to dress and drag out here.
No, very funny. But go ahead,
Thank
man.
you.
I'm sorry.
Getting to play all these characters in these videos is absolutely and I love playing where maybe it was a little bit like top heavy at first. I went a little bottom heavy as the police officer in the jail cell, which was really fun. But well, no, I mean, again, it's sort of like feeling like the world around you may be so chaotic that it sort of destabilizes you, and everybody is kind of feeling a collective sense of disorientation where you're like, where am I? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I know certainly last year too, in 2025, that seemed like a tidal wave hit a lot of us.
Yeah.
And so it's about that kind of reckoning with how do you find your place within the chaos and be able to kind of pick up the pieces. And sometimes the best thing you can do is have either maybe it's a close friend or a song or some experience that sort of holds the mirror up, and you get to look and go like, yeah, man, I let myself slip a little bit. Let me get back on this shit and get going again. And that's what I think that song can help with too.
I guess one of the things that I really connected with Wrong Place, Wrong Time was because, like I was telling you guys off camera earlier, I'm 58, and back in the late 80s and 90s, that was my era, and it seemed like just when we were getting really good and starting to get a big following, music started to change. And in the United States in particular, as you guys know, country really started emerging, and different things started happening where rock kind of fell off the radar for a bit. And so we were all rock. We were all in. We were never going to change. But when you talk about the song Wrong Place, Wrong Time, it kind of explores the feeling of being born in an era that doesn't really completely understand you. Have both of you guys kind of experienced that personally?
Me, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially because that's also like that's how I grew up. My father, same way, like same thing with you. My father, born in 1936, was a bebop pianist. He was born to be a bebop guy. He was like, that's my music. Yep. And he moved to New York at 18 in 1954, right at the end of the bebop era. Because bebop was really, for those who don't know, is like 40s, strong, like big band, late big band kind of era of the 40s, underground scene, and then early 50s. And then it started to like Coltrane and Miles, and then it started to get more modal, which is like the chords aren't as, it gets a little more like in fourths and quartal voicings. That's my music nerd stuff. Anyway, different music. My dad hit the scene right at the end of the bebop era, and he didn't want to play the modal music or, more modern bop. He was into straight ahead bebop, as straight as it, like Red Garland, and he felt like this too. And I feel like because of the world I was born into, with jazz being my language, but like also classic rock too, when I was growing up, didn't have its resurgence yet. So I was like, and then my first love was classical and opera and Baroque music. I love medieval music and Renaissance instruments, and I just feel like I don't really belong in any era. I feel like I belong in all the different eras of the past, but never this one, and maybe even future. But so that song was a way for me to communicate that very real existential kind of feeling. What about you, Brian? Do you feel?
I was just thinking about that. I came at it from almost a more it's sort of a reflex of a way of being. I was never really a particularly good conformist. And I learned early on like that I might as well, why struggle to try to follow the crowd or sort of fit in. And I mean from early on. And one of those interesting things too, like I was saying, when you're born on like a sort of a cusp or that little micro generation between Gen X and millennials and stuff, and
or millennial and Gen Z.
A lot of the stuff that I grew up with like the kind of like messaging that it was going towards kids was really a healthy kind of like be yourself, express yourself, the first Muppet film, which touched me and like sort of shaped my worldview.
Rainbow Connection.
5 or 6.
Yes.
Yeah, Rainbow Connection. And just the idea, right? Yeah,
song.
that song really about encapsulating about sort of like being a dreamer, finding your tribe, going out in the world and like living your dream, or, die trying kind of feeling. And, or even I was just watching, a couple of like Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers is a whole thing about sort of accepting yourself for who you are and that there's a place for you, that I sort of through school, I found my place as a misfit with other kids that felt the same way, which lent itself to, the world of the Dresden Dolls and kind of in any other sort of subculture thing. So I never really exactly felt, oh man, I feel like I'm out of time. I was like, I can't help but just be my own like weird self within this time now. So I fit in. Like
you're unapologetic about it.
Right.
You're just,
And Brian showed me how to live that way, because I didn't have that model for me when I was growing up. I was kind of like, just like find ways and pockets to fit into the system. So when I met Brian, I was like, it opened up my whole worldview of how to human.
This is the ultimate team, I think, right here. So I've got some questions specifically aimed at Brian, and it's some for Veronica. But since Brian was kind of talking about the Dresden Dolls earlier, so Brian, your career, and if, I do all my research, so if I get something wrong, man, just correct me. I was 4 years off on the last thing, but I took a shot. So your career obviously included the Dresden Dolls and Violent Femmes. You did some work with 9 Inch Nails, many other unconventional projects. But what lessons from those experiences have become part of Dame?
Well, certainly, I think making sure from just an interpersonal level that you start off from a good place with people that you feel a real connection and kinship with, just interpersonally. Because sometimes if that foundation isn't solid, even if you have a fruitful artistic collaboration, that's where the cracks can begin to really erode the sort of productivity and being able to feel like you can really move forward on solid ground with things. And, working with a lot of these different camps, whether it was like some of the larger, more established groups that I played with, or within my own band, or even, smaller bands kind of on the way up doing the more like indie thing, making sure that you're at a really good place within yourself is one of the cornerstones of ensuring that you at least have a shot at making progress over a certain length of time. One of the things that always kind of broke my heart was seeing kind of self-destructive behaviors take over in bands that I really believed in, and that even members of the bands that I had played with that had voiced desire to like see their bands go further and stuff like that. When I became an active part of those bands, it was surprising sometimes to see, again, like the sort of self-limitations, the fears that we all can run up against. And one of the things that we talk about sometimes is being in a band is sometimes one of the quickest ways to hold up, again, the mirror of the things that might be troubling you, or the self-limitations that people put on, the fears of success, the fears of failure, any sort of behaviors that might be clouding your ability to sit comfortably in your body in a creative experience with other people. You know what I mean? And it can be in a positive way if you have good people that are open to working through those things. Sorry not to wax like therapist here, but it's very much...
It's helping me.
Well, it's a great way to be able to open yourself up, because really once you step back from all the sort of glitz and rock and roll and this and, sweating on stage and crazy behavior and blah, 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 what you're left with is, where do you sit within human relationships, like everything. But because it's so interpersonal and it's so personal to the people making themselves vulnerable, creating these songs and playing it, performing it, opening it up to the scrutiny and criticism of not just, live audiences, but all of the internet and, the vast cornucopia of cruelty that can unload on somebody from being like, here's a thing I made, those are things you want to be with people that you really do love and trust. And so that to me is one of the things that I appreciate the most about working with Veronica, is that sense of, camaraderie and team playership and love and support.
Veronica, just kind of coattail off what Brian just said. So Dame has been described as the place where rock music, you carried privately for years could finally be heard. So what did you have to unlearn? I love that word because I use it a lot. What did you have to unlearn when stepping from the jazz world, for example, into the role of rock front woman?
Well, it's interesting. It wasn't. Maybe Brian has a different answer just from watching on my development, because we have different perspectives when we're going through something. When it comes to craft, I didn't unlearn anything. It wasn't unlearning. That wasn't the process. It was. I would say it was more just unlocking, because it was already what was
I'm writing
needed.
that down.
Yeah, what was needed was already there and was either being used just in a jazz context. And I think that's a lot of when I do my interviews as Veronica Swift in the jazz world, I explain to people, they say, like, what's your sound? And I say, well, a lot of my sound comes from because I sing rock music. So it's like, it's not that they're separate, but equal kind of, places in my life. They're what I use in rock, I use in jazz. They kind of feed each other. So I don't know if there was any unlearning, but in a psychological way, there was a lot of unlearning for sure. I think I had just gotten what would you say? I'm trying to think of what whether it's like outlook on kind of
being just open to breaking out of the boxes or the things that maybe an audience can sometimes unintentionally place upon an artist in terms of expectation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And what I guess unlearning, it's hard. I never thought of it. So I guess what I would say to that is make what you want to make first. But even then I was doing that in the jazz world. So it's like, I was just doing it in the confines that I had in that world. Finding.
Well, I just thought of something that Veronica would say often. Sometimes there was a prevailing attitude of don't ask for too much. Just be happy with what you're given and shut up about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because we as jazz musicians, we can't expect anything. We should just be happy to be here and take what we're given and not press too hard. And that's very different than where sort of I came from, in the kind of punk rock, metal world, whatever, rock and roll and that kind of thing. You sort of make your bones on your own and you start off not expecting anything except sort of to earn whatever you earn by your own blood, sweat, and tears and kind of getting out there and doing the damn thing. And so it's sky's kind of the limit. And it seemed to me at first there was a feeling that there was kind of a glass, a kind of a low glass ceiling to not really try to aim too high. This is about what you can expect and just keep it about there and don't push because it's futile. But what I've seen you do now is whether it's industry professionals who may not totally be in alignment or understand what it is that you're going for. That's cool. Everybody's got their own place and things they're shooting for. So it's about finding the team who really resonate with the thing that you're looking to accomplish and bringing those people in. And that's where I've seen you really come into your own and your own power.
So I guess if I had to unlearn anything, it would have been that, what he just said, unlearning the belief that we're given what we're given and just make do with what you got, rather than go out and get the things get the tools and resources you need to make what's in your head.
Well, I want to follow up on that. I want to kind of tail off that because Veronica's a vocalist like most people never get to work with, Brian. So, I mean, what has working with Veronica demanded from you, Brian, creatively that no previous collaboration has?
Well, in working with Veronica's jazz trio, that certainly was a kind of pressure that I felt, not having been sort of innately sort of from the jazz world and steeped in that. The very first concert my father brought me to see at 11 years old was the Elvin Jones Jazz Machine, which Elvin has been one of my, if not the primary source of love and inspiration.
My Freddie is his Elvin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Jonathan Cain, I know.
Yeah, Jonathan
right,
Cain.
yeah. So right in that sense, but obviously stepping into the drum seat, working with a world class artist like Veronica, to me, I was like, well, I really got to up my game. But what I did there was, rather than let the intimidation overwhelm me, again, going back to square one and saying like, well, if my job is to support this vocalist, let me just ask her, what is it you would like from me in terms of support? And the answer I got, both from Veronica and, again, credit where credit is due, on my first, it was an 8-show run at the Blue Note in New York in January 2022. That was my first time on the bandstand with Veronica. And the bass player on that gig, Alex Claffey, when I was like, oh, what should I do? Like, am I supposed to like be Mr. like Philly Joe Jones up here and try to, feather and play and comp and do all kinds of crazy, complicated shit? I was like, that's not really my thing. And Alex very clearly said, don't worry about that. He said, basically just worry about keeping time, play as little kick drum as possible, and just remember to stay out of the way of the vocalist when she's soloing and out of the horn section. So like the more supportive you play and the simpler you play, the more the horns and vocals are going to love you. And I asked Veronica too, and she said, yeah, like listen to like Anita O'Day records, listen to Frank Sinatra live at the Sands, give me a few little reference points and, little bits and pieces that I would pick up listening to her previous records. But then I learned, okay, cool. This is something that's out of my wheelhouse. I feel a little out of my depth, but rather than freak out and try to overplay and show how crazy and complicated I can do and make an absolute fool of myself, I went straight to the source and said, what do you need from me? How can I best serve the support function of the drums for you? And I worked hard to, and I'm still, work on those things now as we go and play. From a rock standpoint, it's very interesting because Veronica really is the first sort of rock artist that I've worked with through composed composition sort of format and the way. Many times I'm sort of part of the writing process where there's been all the different stuff, the femme stuff, the Nine Inch Nails, Dresden Dolls, but whatever you name it, it's like World Inferno, the albums that I've worked on, I've had a direct impart like that. With this, I don't feel excluded from the development of drum parts with Veronica. I'll add to them because there's, sort of basic MIDI drums, but it's really cool getting a very nuanced, complex drum part before me and going like, here's what we need to do to basically build and refine this. So that's constantly where my ear goes, is how can I refine these parts to aid the song that Veronica's got.
It takes time working together. And I can remember getting a few scowls or dirty looks from my lead singer when my keyboard part might have went on a little too long, or I might have done something a little too fancy right when he was trying to do something vocally. So I got a few looks, like, hey, don't do that next time. And I think it takes that, it just takes time of working together. But Veronica, you created a gothic rock opera, if I'm saying this right, Vera Icon. While you were in college. Looking back now, does that project feel like an early ancestry of Dame?
In a way, yes. I mean, that was in terms of who I've always been this person. It's not like rock is some new thing for me. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to take a stab at this. I've always been this theatrical storytelling universe creating rock person. At that time, and 2012, 13, 14, 15, when I was in Vera Icon world, that was right at a time when I lost my house. I went to college and was having trouble at university, just kind of fitting in. Again, we talk about fitting in and not feeling quite with the program and needing an outlet for like a lot of things. I was also going through the loss of a house to a house fire, my childhood home. We sold the farm, which I grew up on a beautiful farm in Appalachia, a greater Appalachia, and we had to sell the farm. Grandfather passed away. My dad also had cancer and passed away. My cousin, who was like a brother to me, who passed away at 20 years old, very tragically. It was like so one thing after the next. And then not to mention the relationships that one goes through in their 20s to try and find who they are, and like just like, what is going on here? What is the universe trying to tell me? So Vera Icon was a very dark externalization of these things I was going through. So it was very much in the vein of Marilyn Manson. I was a nun looking for her faith in all the different corners of the world, sometimes in the deepest, darkest annals of hell. And it's a story like very much like a divine comedy turned on its side. And so I was definitely in that, like when you're in your 20s, you're kind of in that, what's the satanic Bible? What's this? What's that? You get into the dark kind of stuff. That's kind of a natural phase for people at that age, I think. But it was also
I have daughters, so no, I get. I get it.
Morbid
Like,
curiosity.
what are you
Morbid-
doing?
Childhood.
Who are you today? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the morbid curiosity also, Marilyn Manson, this is where I put my manifestation to the test, my manifestation powers. When I was listening to a lot of Marilyn Manson, I somehow had attracted his old manager who lives in Florida, Miami. I was living in Miami. I was in the place where Manson made his bones, started out. And his first manager found our band and started working with us and put us on the road in southern Florida. We started to build the stage show, told him about the story and the concept. So I was always this way, even since I was a little kid. So Vera Icon was, in a way, that first attempt at how do I stage a production? I built the props. I built the podium confessional thing. I built a toilet stall confessional. All
now
this
that
messed
I'd
up.
like to see. That I'd like to see.
To be honest, maybe in like a more like, because in Dame we have this why it's not just like, okay, we're gonna like do the classic rock Queen and Boston thing, and then we're gonna do the Beatles thing. It is a world of many different, like I said, the time travel element. We have that by having different musical styles. We do have like the song that's coming out in October. We have also that kind of more hard rock 90s Manson-y, not necessarily industrial, but just the hard rock of that era. We have that element too. And I think maybe that's where Vera Icon, which we have one of the characters, one of the great women in history, Hildegard of Bingen, who's a nun. We have lots of nun characters that we can bring into our universe. And I feel like that would be a resurgence for Vera Icon in a new way, in a new light that people would, I think that story needs to be told too.
Well, all of this brings up a good point. I'm being cognizant of our time, but I want to get in a few more things before I let you guys have your weekend back. But what I've noticed when I was researching you guys is that it's time consuming because you have everything, you have every genre, you have all these styles, you have all these influences that have brought you Dame. So when you listen to the music, it's great. But what does a Dame performance offer that simply cannot be fully captured on a recording?
Or like a 3-minute song or video.
Yes, right.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's, I think, just the confidence and overall sense of like intestinal rock and roll fortitude on stage. Yeah, I mean, it's everybody on stage just going at it full force, which is just the kind of energy that you want from a rock band. You want to see people having fun, and just like crushing it up there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because it seemed like one of the prevailing kind of trends amongst live performance over almost pushing like 2 decades or more now is one of sort of acting like you don't care. It's not that important to you.
Shoegazers.
Yeah, and kind of, looking down and, but I mean, to me, somebody reared on like the kind of performance rock and metal and punk rock and, there's, Rollins band for me was like one of the most exciting kind of bands that came out of that era and all that, just watching people just give everything they have to the moment, especially music that they love and care about, because you see how that translates to an audience member. And I always want to make sure that I'm feeling like I'm doing everything I can to touch somebody out there that needs music in their life the same way I needed it when I was at those points when I was like, I got nothing else to hold on to but this music that's keeping me going. That's giving me hope. That's giving me some sort of form of strength to push forward. And so that's something that we just, love to give. Both Veronica and I live to perform and live to be out there and doing this. And we have such a great time with the guys in the band. And even though sometimes those guys switch around, Dame has really become kind of a collective. Yeah. And Veronica and I have just kind of made the commitment to ourselves that it's just forward march, at all costs.
Get on the groove line.
Well, that, and also,
right
being that too, it's like, we're not like 19, but everybody, a lot of the musicians that we work with too, everybody's got various ways that they're trying to keep the bills paid and that kind of thing. Yeah. But we keep ourselves surrounded by other really passionate musicians, really talented people, and just fun, great folks like that. So that's really nice to feel that family kind of expand as well.
Yeah.
I see a lot of things. It's almost like an early Kiss concert. You got all this artistry and outfits and smoke machines, whatever. There's just a lot going on. It's really exciting. And I think you can't capture that unless you're there. And
Right.
I've just watched some of the videos, and I'm just like, damn, I wish I could have been at that show. It looks really, really awesome. And it's funny, Brian, that you say that about some of the other musicians that you work with, because recently we just did a cover of Jane by Starship, and our guitar player is the youngest guy in the band, and he's like, he said, Brian, is this one that you wrote? And I was like, no, this is a band called Starship, and it was a big song back in the late 80s. And I'm like, man, that's a great song. And I'm like, yeah, you've never heard this? And he goes, no. And I'm like, God, I'm old. But at the same time, I think what a lot of people want to know is, where do you guys going to take this? I mean, what's the next major creative goal for Dame? What do you guys have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, my big hurdle, not necessarily a hurdle, because it's not something. It's just something that you just do it, like Nike, just do it.
Yeah.
And then you've kind of figured. Obviously, you have to adjust your according to the space, because sometimes I would love to see this show. Obviously, I envision like theatrics. I start with, in my mind, the biggest possible, the arena with the light show. I have the light show all figured out. I have the blocking. I have the 2-tier stage system. I have the stairways that are, and then I dial it back for the rooms that, like, we're playing. For example, if we're playing Viper Room, that's like barely any room. So then to have any theatrics at all, so I say, okay, what are the pieces that are essential to tell this story? And I look at our show kind of in 4 acts, where you have, like, welcome to the show, kind of, just like is a great, really great rock band. We're going to take you back in time. This era we're in kind of sucks. Let's see if we
Agreed.
Kind of like what you said, like, just let's go back in time together. And then the second act, there's the introducing the character and the hardships that they come from. She has then succumbing to temptation, giving into temptation, and having a prop that, or an act that represents temptation. For every character, it's different. For every one of us, it's different. And then there's the fall of that character. That's third act, and the death. And we may actually do like a death live, just as spiritual. I've had spiritual deaths, right? We all have had, ego deaths. And what are you laughing at?
Theatrically staged version. We may actually have a death live.
No, like a theatrically staged death.
Like, damn, you guys go
wording
all out.
is everything.
Like, if it's Joan of Arc, we have a burning scene,
Sure.
like, which represents that. Or if it's Olympe de Gouges, whose head was cut off by the guillotine, maybe we like, and that's nodding nod to Alice Cooper right there. So we have, and then the last act, of course, is like, how do you come back from this? Whether it's like a character reincarnate, or if it, theatrical tellings of things, very real things that we go through in our lives. So my hopes are to have this theatricality full on, like when we have the props and we have, but you can also enjoy it as a rock band. You don't need to we're not hitting you over the head with exposition here. And now here's the part where the king.
I think this stage show will evolve as the venues evolve in a really kind of organic way.
Yeah.
One of the fun things, can we pause just for a second?
Sure.
Is it okay to mention the soapbox thing, or should I not?
You absolutely should mention soapbox.
So one of the things that would be kind of fun to mention is we recently got an offer to play on this new platform called Soapbox, which they basically do live performances shot with like 40 cameras in 360.
Wow.
And they basically do an augmented reality where the band would appear basically with these kind of like, VR headsets, life size in your living room, or with virtual reality with like a fully formed background. And we are scheduling and developing that. It's a 4-song performance that we're looking to schedule for November. And that's something that we're really excited to build. So that would be kind of the microcosm where like each song would represent an act of the show and the transformation of this character.
That's a great teaser. I mean, we want to hear that teaser. Yeah. That's going to be cool. I want to do something. You guys want to have some fun for a second?
Yeah, let's have some fun.
So I've got some questions, just five questions. I'm going to call this my lightning round.
Yeah.
And you guys can take a jab. I don't care who wants to chime in on this first one. Oh. So I know how important the Dame universe is. So you can bring one historical woman from the universe with you on tour. Who are you picking?
Well, it depends on the tour, because if we're going to do the medieval version of the show, or the French Revolution version, or the pre-war cabaret version, but I right now I'm particularly obsessed with Olympe de Gouges from the French Revolution.
Yeah.
She was. I mean, I don't know if you have a different answer, Brian, but she was writing plays. She was a playwright, and she wrote articles about, she was an abolitionist, one of the early feminists in the world, and also writing. She was one of the first people to write that we need women's hospitals. What a concept. And
you guys just spent some time in Paris too, so
we spent a lot of time in France as one, so it happens to be that a lot of my favorite great dames just happen to be French. I did not plan that, but I think right now it'd be Olympe de Gouges. But
all right, one more for Veronica here. Veronica, you can only perform one for the rest of your life. It's either going to be jazz club, rock club, or Broadway stage. If you had to pick one, rest of your life, what would it be?
Rock club for sure.
All right.
I don't want people sitting down.
All right, Brian, this one's for you, and I'm going to be curious for your answer. Brian, you can only keep one: drums, guitar, or producing.
Drums.
That's easy.
He was built to play
easy. I mean, I'm sure there are people. I find a kind of kinship when I watch stories. Anybody out there that's seen, a lot of the surfing documentaries and things like that, or you hear people like Laird Hamilton talk, and there's that footage of his wife Gabby saying, like, when there's no waves, Laird just kind of like stares like forlorn out at the ocean. It was like, oh man, it's like that feeling. And all the surfers are talking about like when there's no waves, and you just feel like this, like, oh, I'm misconnecting with the thing I need to do. And that's so exactly how I feel like when I'm not able to play the drums. It's such a completely like mood stabilizing, life stabilizing force. Couldn't go without it, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, what else?
I would definitely say that.
This is for both of you. You can answer independently. And I always think this is funny. What is one artist that would completely surprise other people that's on your personal playlist? Veronica, ladies first.
Oh, no. I think, Brian, I have to think about that one.
Okay, we'll give you time. Brian, who's on your playlist that would surprise everybody?
Well, it might be funny to some
he's
people.
Actually opening the playlist.
Well, I'll see if I can give you a couple. Have I?
Oh my God,
let's see. I have been listening to a lot of. This is going to sound so out. Like,
no, this is what we want.
Italian film composer orchestrated funk.
I was thinking maybe Rainbow Connection from our earlier discussion. That would be.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love
out.
that too? Let's see what's. Well, there's all different kinds of stuff going on here.
No, but the one that was surprised, he's saying, because obviously Queen, that's obvious. Right?
Yeah, the surprising.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you one. All right, Luigi Tenco. Not orchestrated funk, but Luigi Tenco is an incredible sort of, how would you say, a crooner from the 1960s in Italy.
Yes, Italian pop singer from the 60s.
Beautiful.
Song singer, songwriter.
Well, it makes you feel better. While I'm cooking, I always listen to Frank Sinatra. I don't know why. They got to go together.
You would like Luigi Tenco.
Yeah,
I probably would. Veronica, did you think of one?
Yeah, if you went and listened, because I'm not really like a pop music fan.
Right.
I'm a fan of it from an objective perspective. Like, I love when Lady Gaga does what she does. There's a lot of rock and roll in what she does. But in terms of the sound of how pop singing sounds, it's just not the style that I identify with, right? Or production. But when the song is great, it doesn't matter what the genre is or the production or how it's sung even sometimes. If the song is great, there's like a song. And there's this pop singer that I recently stumbled across, actually, by like just doing some, like looking at our Wrong Place, Wrong Time video, just seeing like the comments there, doing some daily, okay, who's checking it out now? What are we at? And one of the suggested artists that came in on the YouTube playlist was this singer, songwriter, pop, but her name is Debbie Dawson. And it's
I'll check her out.
I mean, like I would have never really imagined myself listening to an artist like this, but her songwriting approach is so in line with a Queen and ABBA and approach of like the orchestration, how she hears melody is how I hear melody. And I'm like, that's exactly the melody I would have chosen for that chord there. It's like when you meet somebody and you come from very different worlds, but you're like, you think the same way. It's like, yeah, like I have this weird sense of humor too, even though we're from two different sides of the globe, right? So I think She has a very also wide, some of her stuff is definitely more like country, pop, whatever. But I would listen to her song. If you like Dame and like, it seems like we have a lot of similar tastes musically,
Yeah.
you would like her song, Turn the TV On, her song. And she's got a lot of ABBA in her too, which it's one of my guilty pleasures.
I'll get her on the show. That's what
Yeah.
I'll do.
Yeah. Oh, I would kill to watch that.
Yeah.
Turn the TV On. And what's the other favorite song? Oh, yeah. Where Have All the Good Men Gone? We're considering actually covering that if that's like a respectful thing to do, you know, because it's her song. But that song is so in the damedom. It's crazy. And then her other song is You Killed the Music.
I'm
Beautiful,
definitely going to check
beautiful
her out.
songwriting.
If you have time and you think about it, send me a link or something, and
You got it.
so I don't forget. But I definitely will reach out to her.
Yeah.
Last question for both of you. Not last question. Last lightning round question. Finish this sentence. You know you've just seen a Dame show when
You walk out with arrows stuck in your back, and
I love it.
And a cup of mead that needs to be refilled, and
warm mead.
Yeah.
And you somehow have, through osmosis, learned, I don't know, old Scottish drinking songs that you're singing with your friends.
Maybe speaking French. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nah, you know you've been to a Dame show when you say to yourself, this I don't know how to like exactly finish the sentence, but the people that are saying things like, where have you guys been? You know, like the things that we love about the classic rock era, and but not sounding like derivative, right? So it's like, wow, that's like what you said. That's a band that I've been waiting for to do something like this. So you leave a Dame show, you know that feeling you feel when it's like the great classic rock bands are alive and continuing the legacy.
So refreshing to find you guys. Just so you know, you've changed my life.
Oh my God.
Closing
thank you.
question.
You changed ours.
No, I doubt that. Closing question. When you look at the body of work that everything Dame represents creatively and everything it has allowed each of you to become as artists, what do you hope this band ultimately says about who you were at this moment in your lives?
Open to possibility.
Ooh.
Open to everything that you know you deserve as a creative person in terms of the chance to express your ideas and work with other like-minded people who are excited to share and build on what you're doing. That's really the thing. This has been a major wall as I've worked with Veronica, watching her break through, going like, right, yeah, I'm not trapped. All these things that I thought maybe had some sort of level of power over my life, it's all a mirage. And you're really, to be able to hopefully also through this band make people feel more empowered to do the same thing in their life, to take a risk, to like level up, to go for the things that are exciting to them, to go for something real. You know, there's all this talk that people they're over AI, they're over screen time, they're over just digital world and digital living, and that they're excited to get out there. Yeah. So hopefully we can, you can inspire kids to go start a band together.
Yes.
And like people to go like, I should have a house show and do this thing. And like get some crazy painting friends or have somebody come make a weird installation and, just get people involved in the visceral act of making art again.
Yeah. It is about creative minds. Veronica, same thing. What do you want to add to that?
Yeah, repeat the question.
When you look at everything Dame represents creatively and everything it has allowed each of you to become as artists, what do you hope this band says about who you were at this moment in your life?
Yep. Unafraid too. That's not to be said that there's always like doubt and maybe some, like questioning of, am I doing the right thing? But don't be afraid to do listen to yourself. By listening to my instincts, have I become more open and opened that gate to the possibilities that wouldn't have been there if I wasn't. If I was like, well, I don't know, gotta consider, you want to be strategic.
Right on.
But don't be afraid and be open. Exactly. I would love for the rest of my life to live with that philosophy and inspire people to do the same.
Well, I think you're doing it. And I think people that tune in and they see Dame and they follow Dame, your fan base is growing very rapidly. I'm a fan. Lisa's a fan. We're all fans. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking out of your your time out of your day to day to share with the fans what you're doing, what you're working on. I certainly learned more about you. I think you guys are just fantastic. We're going to wrap it up, let you guys have your Saturday, what's left of it, back. I know I went long, but I really, from the bottom of my heart and my dang T-shirt.
We love it. Looks great on you.
I should have got the one that had the logo so you could talk about the whole thing, but we'll save that for another
That's
show.
a whole other thing, too.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing, and I had 1,000 more questions, but I promise I'd wrap this up for you, but thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, man. Well, we look forward to doing part 2 with you, brother.
We have
Definitely.
a record coming out next fall, so I'm sure we'll see you again, right?
Yeah, we'll have you back on anytime. We got season 3. We're already scheduled. We got some really interesting people, Big Brother cast members, guys from the Spin Doctors, different people that are coming on next season. So it's going to be really fun. But we'll fit you back in if you want to come on anytime. So thank you so much. And with that, hey, tune in next week, everybody. We're going to have Minnie Verse on the show, and she's going to be great. Go enjoy your weekend, everyone, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Inside the Creative Mind with Brian Jones. Keep exploring, keep creating, and don't forget to tune in for the next 30 minutes of inspiration, streaming on all platforms. Your next spark of creativity is just a play button away.